SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
When addiction takes control, getting help can change everything. Parkwood Behavioral Health System offers compassionate, evidence-based addiction treatment for adults right here in Mississippi. Take the first step today. Visit parkwoodbhs.com. Healing starts here. With limited exceptions, physicians are not employees or agents of this facility.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21. I want you to believe
6:06 in the morning on May 27th, 2026. Glad to be with you. Welcome in. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm, online at SuperTalk. Hold on, let me try that again. Supertalk.fm, Supertalk TV, of course, on the Supertalk app, and all of the Supertalk Mississippi radio stations as well. I think I covered all the bases there. I just got my mind was going faster than my mouth, or mouth was going faster than my mind. Whatever however it is that's supposed to work. Good morning, I think, is what I was trying to say. Hello, Lance.
Good morning, RC.
What's shaking, buddy?
Man, just getting it done today. No rain.
After it.
Yeah, no rain, I think so.
Yeah.
Feeling good about myself.
No rain so far. Man, this was one of those mornings you walk outside and you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, summer is a-coming. It is humid.
It always, it's funny because you mentioned that, and the birds don't all wake up at the same time. It's like some mornings you'll wake up and they're just tweeting and having the biggest time, and other mornings you'll wake up, same time, walk out the door, and it's just as quiet as a mouse. Today, everything was wide awake.
Really?
Yeah, ready to go. So I think that's a good sign for a Wednesday.
All right. I'm on board with that. I spent much of yesterday thinking that yesterday was Monday and today was Tuesday.
Me and you both.
But here we are on Wednesday, middle of the week, hump day, and appreciate you joining us. Love for you to join the conversation. Best way for you to do that is on the ceasefire text line at 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. The One Plan from ceasefire is here. Fiber, home, internet, and wireless, only $99 a month. That's for new and current ceasefire customers. One plan, one price, one experience, zero compromise. Get started now at ceasefire.com/oneplan. Ceasefire. Customer inspired. Ed in New Hope says it's foggy in the Golden Triangle this morning. Be careful out there, Ed, and everybody else moving around in the GTR. Maybe give yourself a few extra minutes. Hernando, you've got 85 for a high today with a low overnight of 70 degrees, mostly cloudy. The chance of showers and thunderstorms, possibly severe thunderstorms this afternoon and into the evening. About a 60% chance of rain, and if you do get rain, it may be a lot. 0.3 to half an inch possible, with light winds out of the south and southeast. Starkville, and we're going to keep Starkville and Hattiesburg in the weather rotation this week as we move closer to the Starkville and Hattiesburg regionals, kind of keeping an eye on the forecast. Starkville, 84 for your high today, going to be 70 for the overnight low. Partly to mostly cloudy with thunder showers likely, especially this afternoon. Chance of rain 50, 60, maybe 70% with winds out of the south. Hattiesburg, 84 for your high, 70 for the overnight low. Thunderstorms likely, overcast skies possible. Stronger storms could bring heavier rain, 70 to 80% chance of the wet stuff today for you in Hattiesburg. And in Gulfport, 85 for the high, 77 for the overnight low. Warm and muggy. Thunderstorms possible, maybe even likely. 60% chance with winds out of the south and southeast at 8 to 12 miles per hour. I don't know if they've still got the headline up, Lance, but I was looking at weather.com last night, and they described an omega block.
Okay.
An omega block is gripping the country this week. They write.
Yeah, learn about that. I'm not aware of this.
Time to pull out your Greek alphabet for this week's weather. The pattern setting up in the coming days, dubbed an omega block, will make for slow-moving weather systems and unexpected temperatures. Meteorologists aren't the most creative when it comes to naming things. This blocking pattern is a prime example. It gets the name omega block because when you trace the jet stream from west to east while in place, it looks like the Greek letter omega. Okay.
All righty.
Setup blocks the typical east-west flow of the jet stream like a large rock in a small stream that forces the flow of water around it. All right. Well, we'll see. Much of the southeast rainy over the next few days, like a lot of rain. If you are planning to watch baseball regionals this week, you may need to bring your patient's hat. Gonna probably need it. Anyway.
Yeah, you know, regionals all over the place, too, man. There's rain popping up all over. It's going to be interesting to watch the schedule.
Yeah. It may be a moving target. So we will do our best to keep you up to date with that. Let's see. Cornelius Vanderbilt was born on this day in 1794.
Good old Corny.
This was Neely, right? Wasn't he? I think that was his nickname.
Is that how you...
Yeah, I think this is Cornelius Vanderbilt III, who went by Neely.
Okay. No, he wasn't the Commodore. He wasn't the original.
Oh, no, this is the Commodore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is the Commodore. This is the big cat. American business magnate and philanthropist who built a fortune, or several of them, in railroads and shipping, becoming one of the wealthiest Americans of the 19th century. You know how you regularly drop on me? I've done some studying on that. Or, done a little bit of research. Mm-hmm. Done a little bit of research on Cornelius Vanderbilt.
He was a dude, didn't he?
Big old autobiography on him. Interesting cat.
Great lamb chops. And I always loved he got the name Commodore because he was basically a big dude in the shipping business. It wasn't like he was, an admiral at some point in time.
No.
Just a honorary title.
Just a dog.
Yeah, just a dude.
Wild Bill Hickok was born on this day in 1837, the legendary American frontiersman, gunfighter, and lawman of the Old West, famous for his skills as a marksman and a scout. Pretty good nickname also.
Oh, yeah, I love the wild part.
Yeah.
I just go by that, Wild Hickok.
What if we went with Wild Lance Tolbert?
Hey, that's me.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I'll take that.
Rachel Carson, born in 1907, the American marine biologist, conservationist, and writer. Her book, Silent Spring, sparked the modern environmental movement. Hubert Humphrey, born in 1911, politician who served as the 38th president of these United States of America. Did so from 1965 until 1969 under LBJ, longtime senator, Democratic presidential nominee in 1968.
Hubert, very unused in the Common Era. You don't hear that one very often.
As a name. Yeah. Agree with that. Christopher Lee was born in 1922. The British actor and singer was famous for portraying Dracula in Hammer horror films, as well as roles like Saruman in the Lord of the Rings and Count Dooku in Star Wars.
Man, don't discount him as Frankenstein in one of the original, too. Boy, that was a pretty good one. Back in like 1950-something.
Yeah. Henry Kissinger, born on this day in 1973, the German-American diplomat and political scientist. He served as United States Secretary of State and National Security Advisor and won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1973.
Is there something he hasn't done? It's a better question.
Seems unlikely. Louis Gossett Jr., born in 1936, the award-winning American actor, first black actor to win the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Did so in the movie An Officer and a Gentleman, also known for Roots and for Iron Eagle.
Mayonnaise.
Paul Bettany was born in 1971, the actor that played roles in A Beautiful Mind, The Da Vinci Code, and as Vision in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And finally, Andre 3000 was born in 1975. Rapper, singer, and actor Andre Benjamin, his real name, or born name. He is one half of the hip-hop duo Outkast, known for innovative music and eclectic style. C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395. When you ask a question this way, I always think, was I supposed to get to this already? What about the Women's College World Series? Do you know who Mississippi State plays yet? Yeah. Play Texas Tech in their first game. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
He's an old hippie, this new life is just a bust. He ain't trying to change nobody, he's just trying real hard to adjust.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Pleasure being with you this morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Bank local, bank community. Alzie Young, or Alce Young, in 1647, a resident of Windsor, Connecticut, became the first person executed for witchcraft in the American colonies. She was hanged in Hartford. This was nearly 40 years before the famous or infamous Salem witch trials.
A little reactionary back then, you know?
Yeah, not terribly open-minded either.
No, they didn't like the witches.
1703, Tsar Peter the Great of Russia founded the city of St. Petersburg. It was built on swampy land taken from Sweden during the Great Northern War. It served as Russia's capital for over 200 years and became a major cultural and political center known as the Window to the West. We're having a conversation over the weekend about visiting Russia. And it was with someone who had been to Moscow. And they're like, oh, yeah, Moscow's kind of a cool city. And I was like, I feel like I'd rather go to St. Petersburg than Moscow.
Yeah, I've worked in the arts for a while. And the previous exhibition before the one I worked on was the Palaces of St. Petersburg. So I learned an awful lot about St. Petersburg from our executive director. He'd been many, many times. And he said, man, when you go to Russia, you better be ready to eat meat and drink vodka. Sausages and vodka. But he loved it. He said people were really nice. This was back in the late 90s, and just had a great experience. I know he built a lot of friendships there, a lot of hardworking folks that, a lot of rural people, too.
Yeah.
Farming folk.
A lot of that. During the War of 1812, American forces under General William Henry Harrison captured Fort George in present-day Ontario, Canada. That was in 1813.
Love the War of 1812. Man, if you ever look at the map, I mean, that was a wide-ranging war. You go from Canada all the way down to New Orleans, Mississippi River, all over to the east. And Americans just kicked butt in that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the way Andrew Jackson just couldn't take no. Nah, this thing ain't over yet. So, Battle of New Orleans, let's get this out of the way. Going to send them off limping.
1873, archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann discovered Priam's treasure, a cache of gold and artifacts at the site of ancient Troy.
Mm-hmm.
The find fueled public fascination with Homer's Iliad,
which was the wrath of Achilles, if I remember, out of the two. The Iliad is the one where, Achilles goes a little crazy in the Troy War.
Man, it's been a long time. Oh, I really should probably go back and read the Odyssey and the Iliad.
I love the Odyssey. That's a great one. The Iliad, a little different, but I mean, both of them are great. They're kind of a, what is it, hexameter that they're all written in? If I remember correctly.
I'll go with it. We'll go with that. Yeah.
But the battle between Achilles and Hector, if I remember, that was a good one.
1896, a powerful tornado struck St. Louis and East St. Louis, killing at least 255 people, causing massive destruction. Remains one of the deadliest tornadoes in U.S. history. Today in 1930, the Chrysler Building opened in New York, briefly becoming the tallest building in the world at 1,046 feet. That Art Deco spire symbolized the skyscraper boom of that era, 1930s. And then in 1937, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco opened to the public. Over 200,000 people crossed the iconic suspension bridge on foot on the first day. They were allowed to walk across. It quickly became an engineering marvel and a symbol of the city. That is a cold bike ride.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Wind whips across the top of that bridge.
Doesn't look, possible that they were able to pull that off. If you just, it's amazing looking.
It really is spectacular.
One of the interesting things about the Chrysler Building, do you remember the building? Did it put out of business as the tallest building in the world?
Absolutely. The Pontiac Building.
No, it was the Eiffel Tower.
You completely missed my joke.
Oh, the Pontiac.
Come on, man.
Yeah, you got me there, man.
Yeah, just shut the Studebaker right down.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Maybe that's what I should have used the Studebaker.
Yeah.
Surpassed the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, that was.
How about that? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you got me there. I love that. Thank you. I needed a smile.
During World War II, the British Royal Navy, this was in 1941, sank the German battleship Bismarck in the North Atlantic after a dramatic chase. More than 2,000 German sailors died. It marked a significant naval victory for the Allies. Let's get to some news headlines. Things going on across Mississippi and the country. A repeat drug offender will not be able to sell illegal substances in Mississippi to the public for quite some time. Gaddafi Manning, 44 years old, has been sentenced to 64 years in prison. I believe that would make him 108 when he gets out. Unless a judge lifts the sentence after serving less than 1 year. That couldn't happen in Mississippi, could it? That's just a big city thing. Like you don't. Yeah, sorry. We'll get to that later. 64 years in prison for selling cocaine near an unspecified Madison County church while possessing a firearm as a convicted felon.
That's the trifecta there.
Yeah, Bubba Bramlett, the DA representing Madison and Rankin counties, made the announcement. May of 25, narcotics investigators with the Madison County Sheriff's Department conducted multiple controlled purchases of crack cocaine for Manning at his Canton residence. Well, I thought it was by a church. It was at his house.
I think that's where they were setting him up.
Maybe his house is right next to the church. During all undercover drug purchases, a confidential informant was fitted with a covert camera that recorded Manning selling the drugs. After further investigation into his drug distribution, investigators executed a search warrant at his home and discovered crack cocaine, marijuana, alprazolam, and a handgun. Can't be doing that stuff.
And repeat doing it, too.
He pled guilty on May 19th, got the more than 6-decade sentence. The defendant had previously been convicted twice in Madison County for selling cocaine, first in 2003 and again in 2007. I have no idea why I started saying it that way, but
you know the name Gaddafi. You know,
yeah.
I guess when you're given that name, you kind of got to be an outlaw.
I suppose. One of Mississippi's most populous counties is experiencing an influx of black bear sightings. Tyree Jones, Hinds County Sheriff, took to social media on Monday of this week to urge residents to take extra precautions following a recent uptick of black bear sightings across parts of the county. Of course, Hinds County includes Jackson, the state's largest city by population. But the Memorial Day sightings were reported in Utica, more rural town southwest of the capital. Hinds County and Utica police responded to sightings of at least 2 black bears in the Utica area this afternoon, Jones wrote on social media. Residents are urged to stay alert, secure food sources around homes, keep pets close, and avoid approaching or attempting to feed the wildlife. Also, if you spot a bear, let the authorities know. They want to help keep the community safe.
Well, you know, it's going to be interesting to start seeing "Don't feed the bears" signs around Jackson, maybe "Don't feed the bears" and the homeless. I mean, we have bears, and I was always wondering at what point were they going to kind of start pushing east, and we're not far from Utica, so it makes total sense. But if you see one of those dudes, they're a lot bigger than you think.
Do you make signs that say "Don't feed the bears"?
The bears. That's what I would. I mean, you got to have fun with this. They're starting to get out and about and experience life a little bit. Yeah, they're going to start getting into stuff.
Yeah. Somebody said on the text line, I have to believe it was sent in this voice. Better hide your picnic baskets, people.
Yes. Jellystone. Boo-boo.
Boo-boo. Let's go look for a picnic basket.
That's where you get your peanut butter and jelly sandwich love, huh?
It's peanut butter jelly time. Yeah. More news headlines, sports update, and more coming your way. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm, SuperTalk TV. We're back with you after this.
Informing the town, the Lord knows I'm sinning, and sinning ain't right. But me and the good Lord gonna have us a good talk later tonight.
From thesebro.com.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Welcome to the show.
My transistor radio comes from far away, and when it's night over here, over there, it's a breaking day. I remember all the good times I had walking in the sand with the beautiful girl that I met made in Japan.
Thanks for joining us. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Love to hear from you. ceasefire text line is open, 601-879-4395. Two people safely ejected from a military jet that crashed in East Mississippi yesterday. According to the chief of Naval Air Training's Public Affairs Office, the jet crashed on private farmland in Noxubee County around 12:30. A pair of unidentified personnel assigned to the aircraft safely ejected and were transported to medical care. Officials say local emergency crews and military first responders arrived at the scene to secure the site. Public urged to avoid it at this time. It was a U.S. Navy T-45C training jet assigned to Training Air Wing 1 in Meridian. Still investigating the cause. Can you imagine flying in a military jet and things going so poorly that you go, I got to yank that cord?
Yeah, I mean, think about the investment that you're riding on, too. That has to go through your head like, oh, man, this is a bunch of millions I'm about to ditch.
Like if you're in a car crash, you don't have time to process that.
Mm-mm.
But if something's going wrong, you're trying to save it, it's not going to be savable, I got to eject. Somewhere along the way, you're like, well, there goes a couple of $1 million.
Yeah.
Or a few 100,000 or several million or whatever. Or maybe not. I don't. Maybe it's just eject, and we'll let somebody else worry about that.
Right. That has to be one of the big things that's happened in Shuqualak in a while, too.
I would think.
Yeah.
I would think so. All of Mississippi is at risk of flash flooding through tonight. The National Weather Service forecasts more than half of the state is at a limited risk of flash flooding, while the remainder of the state is at an elevated risk. That would be levels 1 and 2 on a scale of 5. Northern region of the state, the Delta, Jackson Metro, and cities along the river, including Vicksburg and Natchez, are all at limited risk, but there is a warning that you could have 1 to 2 inches of rain that could fall in under 3 hours, leading to minor river flooding. There is an elevated risk for those who are living in the Golden Triangle, the Greater Meridian area, the Pine Belt, and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Residents are warned that 2 to 3 inches of rain is possible in under 3 hours, and roads and homes could be flooded. And finally, shrimp season is officially underway. The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources confirmed that it began yesterday at 6 a.m. All state regulations are in effect. All boats engaged in catching or transporting shrimp from Mississippi waters must be licensed or have proper permits before beginning operations. ceasefire text line. JB says you can only eject 3 times in your career.
Really? Okay.
He says comprehension of the spine.
Does that
mean compression of the spine?
That's what I'm thinking.
So you're saying physically.
Wow, that must be some G-forces there.
Ooh, wouldn't you know? Time for your morning sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Online at pearlriverresort.com. Told you yesterday, Geyser Falls Water Park is open. You can find out more and get your one-day passes online. Geyser Falls, just Google Geyser Falls, and it'll take you right to their website. You can also book your tee time at Dancing Rabbit Golf. DancingRabbitGolf.com is the website. 2 18-hole championship courses, the Oaks and the Azaleas. DancingRabbitGolf.com. Dancing Rabbit and Geyser Falls, part of Pearl River Resort. A couple of notes on the ceasefire text line, and we'll get to that. The Boeing McDonnell Douglas T-45C Goshawk cost approximately $17 to $18.5 million a unit. Cost about $11,000 an hour to fly it.
Yeah, I was going to look that up, but we moved on, and thank you for pulling that up because I was still curious.
Yep.
About 18.5, okay.
Yep.
$10,700 per flight hour. I guess that encompasses like the paychecks and jet fuel and maintenance and all that stuff.
All the stuff. If it keeps raining, we'll be able to catch shrimp in central Mississippi.
I was wondering about, does shrimp know it's shrimping season like deer? I mean, do they try to hide or anything?
Maybe. The problem is the season is open for over half the year.
Yeah. They run out of hiding spots at some point.
Like the commercial season runs till January 1st, and the regular, like the casual season runs till next May.
I used to love meeting up with the boats. Some of the Vietnamese boats coming in, or you'd catch them at the harbor. They let you get up on the boat with them, and they'd have all the coolers full of all the shrimp. You just pick what you wanted and weigh it up.
Now, we're talking about Mississippi/American caught shrimp by Vietnamese boat captains, not Vietnamese shrimp that's coming to the Mississippi.
No. These are Vietnamese shrimping captains and families.
Because we got to label our seafood.
Yeah, well, there's several families down there that I dealt with that were really sweet and good folks, hardworking, and they were just that's what they did for a living. And they went out and caught them, buddy, and you got to eat them.
The NCAA has denied Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby's request to be reinstated as eligible for the 2026 season, even as the school president publicly backed Sorsby's desire to play for the Red Raiders this year amid a complex situation.
No doubt.
The NCAA decision, which is in line with precedent, puts Sorsby's lawsuit against the NCAA seeking an injunction, kind of puts that into further focus now as his court date looms on Monday in Lubbock County, Texas. Along with that case, Texas Tech President Lawrence Chovanec stated in a letter to the Texas Tech community that the school planned to appeal the NCAA's ruling. You may remember that Brendan Sorsby, well, you know what? Let's just go with the story. We'll get to this. We believe that given the facts and the context of Brendan's case, the NCAA's ruling should be reversed or modified. As a generation of college athletes faces the legalization and rapid proliferation of sports betting in our country, gambling addiction is rising to the point of epidemic. Among college-aged men in particular, the NCAA's stated mission includes fostering lifelong well-being, and they have claimed their goal is to promote a culture of care for student-athletes' mental health. Gambling addiction is a clinically recognized behavioral disorder. Sorsby filed a lawsuit in Lubbock County on May 18th seeking his eligibility. In the suit, he acknowledged betting on thousands of sporting events as part of his gambling addiction. That included betting on Indiana football games while on the team. He made it clear, however, that he never bet on a game in which he played, nor did he bet against his team. They never did, they never do.
As a boss of mine once said, when you do the picking, you take the kicking.
The lawsuit claims that the NCAA's deeply hypocritical position on gambling and a wholesale abandonment of its obligations and duties to promote the well-being of Sorsby. The news Tuesday comes in the wake of Sorsby completing his 35-day inpatient rehab for his gambling addiction at Algamus in Goodyear, Arizona. Supposed to come back to campus soon. Is it possible for me to feel very sorry for someone who became so entrenched in gambling that it became an addiction, that it became a mental health issue, to feel empathy for that person, to hope that my children, my friends never have to deal with something like that, but also not to say that it is the NCAA's fault that exists? And go, you knew the rules and you broke them. Like, I get that we sue for rules we don't like now, but this feels like it goes farther.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more going on than just a gambling addiction. Maybe a lot led to that, but probably not the first time he'd been betting on games in which he was on the team.
He admits it, thousands of bets.
Well, I mean, it may go back even further than just college, too. So
yeah.
But yeah, the rules are clear. It says at every locker room, every university.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any patience or sympathy for somebody that can't read, that's getting a college education and knows better.
Got a lottery update for you and a couple of other sports stories after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. We'll be right back.
From the Venable Glass.
Now, what's happening across your state? Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross. Wrapping up the 6 o'clock hour. Join us on the ceasefire text line if you would like. You can agree, you can disagree, you can troll. We might or might not recognize you if you're trolling, but hey, that's all right. Give it a go. Or maybe it's not trolling. Maybe you just genuinely look at life through that set of lens, through that lens, and oh man, what a tough way to go through life. Thinking that everything happens is somehow about you.
It's all about me. I know that.
SEC athletic directors on Tuesday voted to play conference games on the second to last week of the regular season, eliminating what has been commonly referred to as the cupcake games before rivalry weekend. The new schedule policy will begin in 2027. Greg Sankey said, "That's the end of Cupcake Weekend in December. We were never able to get that one sponsored." Sankey said the SEC has been talking about it for months and needed to make this decision now in time to schedule it for 2027. If we didn't make the decision at this point or decline that, then we'd have to make some non-conference date adjustments. It was timely. That's why it happened now. Of note, this year, November 21st, Alabama hosting Chattanooga, Auburn hosting Samford the week before they play in the Iron Bowl. Ole Miss hosting Wofford, Mississippi State hosting Tennessee Tech before ending the regular season with the Egg Bowl. Sankey said the decision wasn't driven by any desire to silence critics. Rather, it was a result of the league transitioning to 9 conference games this year and playing on more weekends. Okay. I'm on board with that, I guess. It's not a great weekend for the fans at the end of the regular season when it feels like the stakes should be high. Okay. All right, your Mississippi Lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery online at mslottery.com, mslottery.com. There was no jackpot winner of the Powerball, but a ticket purchased at Liberty Travel Plaza. We told you about this one yesterday, I believe. But you know what? It's so good, we should tell you again. Liberty Travel Plaza in Tillatova matched 4 out of the 5 white balls, plus the Powerball to win $50,000. If they'd gotten the $1 power play multiplier, that would have doubled it to $100,000. Powerball jackpot tonight up to $154 million, $68 million in estimated cash value. Mega Millions coming up on Friday night. It's at $331 million. Cash value $145,200,000. Still don't believe we've had a winner in Millionaire for Life. Last night's numbers were 18, 30, 39, 52, 56. The Millionaire Ball was 1. Let's see here. The first Wheel of Fortune bonus promotional drawing from the lottery was wrapped up yesterday. Players across the state are celebrating big wins. Congratulations to our $15,000 winner from Brookhaven, $10,000 winner from Biloxi, $7,500 winner from Mathiston. Additional winners include players from Biloxi, $5,000, $2,500 from Florence, Columbus, and Braxton. But the excitement isn't over. Keep entering your non-winning Wheel of Fortune scratch-off tickets because another bonus promotional drawing is coming in just 2 weeks. Learn more from the Mississippi Lottery at mslottery.com. William Russell will join us at 7:20 this morning. One of our friends that we're able to check in regularly with in D.C. What's happening inside the Beltway?
Great X handle, right? Big Willie Russ.
Yeah, Big Willie Russ. Wonder if he's coming back for baseball this weekend.
Oh, you know he is.
Big Mississippi State baseball fan. My buddy Peter Costa, former governor with the New York Stock Exchange, will be along in the 8 o'clock hour. Always enjoy checking in with Pete. And we are going to start the 7 o'clock hour. We need to talk a little bit about Ken Paxton, I guess, winning in Texas. There is a judicial ruling or sentencing that was overturned in North Mississippi officially at the beginning of April, but it was just last week when this became very public and started picking up a little bit of coverage. And because it was over a holiday weekend, it is altogether possible that you are not aware of this, and you need to be made aware of this story. It is a story where some of you would be like, well, you don't know all the details. Maybe, maybe not. We'll talk about it coming up next. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi, presented by Community Bank.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I got people trying to tell me red. Keep this living and you wind up dead. Cast your troubles on the Lord of Lords. Wind up laying on a cooling board. But I got buddies up White House Road.
Welcome back. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. This hour of the show is brought to you by MWG Employment Services. So much happening in your office, especially if you are overseeing HR and benefits and payroll and all of those things. Feels like there's not enough time in the day. Let MWG Employer Services help. That's what they do. We know, they know that running a business is tough. And if you're struggling with HR and benefits and payroll, you're not alone. MWG Services can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. If you don't know what that means or if you would like to know more about what that means, give them a call, 601-206-7966 or MWGEmployerServices.com. Mornings is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances, banking services there, make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business, dreaming of a new home? They've got you covered in all of those categories. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Going to need you to put your thinking back and remembering some details hats on. 2022. So we got to rewind about 4 years. There was a death in Oxford. When young people die, it tends to shake the community more than it does when, you just get an obituary for somebody that has lived a long and full life and died of natural causes or lost their life to cancer or whatever it may be. We react differently. And then when we find out a young person was killed, we react even more differently. And then when we find out that a young person was killed by a drunk driver who ran over them multiple times and fled the scene, we have a very different visceral reaction. And that is what happened in a parking lot just off the square back in 2022. A young man and a young woman were sitting on a curb in a parking lot. A young man and his friend, who video evidence and witness evidence, bartender evidence throughout the day suggests had been drinking excessively for a long time on that particular day. Get in a vehicle, back out of the parking spot, run over the young couple. I don't know if they were boyfriend, girlfriend, just friends, whatever, doesn't matter. I don't remember that detail, and I'm not going to search for it. The passenger in the truck that backed over the two recognized that they had hit something or someone. I think he even said that he had seen them behind. And instead of the driver immediately stopping and calling the police and trying to administer some sort of aid, he reportedly put the car or the truck in drive and ran over them again and fled the scene. Didn't take long to find him. Truck was wrecked a day later. But now a Lafayette County Circuit Court judge has amended the sentence of the man convicted of killing Ole Miss student Walker Fielder and critically injuring a young woman that was Walker Fielder's friend. Blanche Williamson, I believe, was her name, if I remember correctly, of Raleigh, North Carolina. According to an amended sentencing order that was filed on April 8th of 2026, Seth Rokitka originally pleaded guilty in August of 2025 to aggravated DUI and leaving the scene of an accident in Lafayette County. He was initially sentenced to 10 years in the custody of the Mississippi Department of Corrections on the leaving the scene charge and an additional 5-year suspended sentence with post-release supervision on the aggravated DUI charge. Those sentences were to run consecutively. But Judge Kent Smith of the Lafayette County Circuit Court wrote in the amended order that the court reviewed Rotkitka's request for reconsideration and found he was worthy of reconsideration based on his rehabilitation, institutional conduct, education, and treatment efforts while incarcerated. So he's going to be released because he was a good prisoner. Because he didn't get drunk and run somebody over and kill them while he was in jail? The order noted that Rokitka had actually been jailed since his arrest in October of 2022, and he had served nearly 2 years. Under the revised sentence, Rokitka's 10-year sentence was reduced to time served, with the remainder suspended. Pending future good behavior, the court ordered his immediate release and placed him on 5 years of reporting post-release supervision. The order also allows him to transfer supervision to Tennessee. So he's going back to Collierville, where he lived before the arrest. As part of the amended sentence, Rokitka must serve 50 hours of community service in Lafayette County with the Lafayette County Sheriff's Department, and he must submit to random alcohol and drug testing. Also, multiple supervision conditions, including maintaining employment, avoiding alcohol and controlled substances, remaining law-abiding, and not carrying weapons. All right, so here's what we need you to do. You killed somebody with your vehicle because you were drunk. First of all, what we're going to do is let you plead that down, not to a murder charge. We're going to go with aggravated DUI and aggravated leaving the scene. So we're going to allow that plea deal, first of all. And then we're going to come back and we're going to say, oh, Mr. Rokitka, you've been a good boy while you were in jail. We think you've been there long enough. Go home. And you know what? As long as you go to work every day, you do what you're supposed to do, you complete 50 hours of community service, and let's see, we need you to not drink and not do drugs, then you're going to be just fine. Thank you. To the family of the Fielders, we're sure you understand Mr. and Mrs. Fielder. We understand that we don't get to do a do-over on your son. We don't get to bring him back to life, Mr. and Mrs. Fielder. We don't get to rectify that he was run over repeatedly in a parking lot by someone who was drunk and had been drinking for the better part of 12 hours. But we feel like 2, 3, 4 years, kind of enough. Good job, Mr. Rokitka. Don't drink anymore. Don't do any drugs. Be sure you go to work every day. We're going to check in on you from time to time. There was another guy that was involved, Tristan Holland. He was the passenger who tried to get him to slow down. He was arrested, charged with accessory after the fact. What are we doing? What? I mean, there are some people who might choose in all of this to get angry at the defense attorney. You know what? Nope. Kevin Horan, defense attorney, he was doing his job. His job was to represent his client. That is the nature of a defense attorney. If you find yourself in trouble, you want the best one you can find. I think I'd put Kevin Horan pretty high on that list. Pretty darn high on that list. Circuit court judges, by the way, are elected. I don't believe Kent Smith has an opponent in November. And I believe the filing deadline has passed. I would love someone to explain to me why this is a good idea, why this is a good plan, why letting this man who killed another young man and critically injured this young woman out after 4 years is the right decision. I'll wait. Back with you after this.
Good morning from the Venable.
Your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Then the sheriff came around in the middle of the night. Heard mama crying that something wasn't right. He was headed down to Knoxville with a weekly load. You can smell a whiskey burning down Copperhead Road.
Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Bank local, bank community. I am joined now by William Russell. He's a D.C. man, and he's wearing a nice, shiny suit this morning and ready to go. Former advisor and state director here in Mississippi with the Trump campaign. He is a partner with Ballard Partners in Washington, D.C. William, always a pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning, Richard. I got to tell you, before we can go forward, I have to have Lance play me in every single day, no matter what I'm doing. He's got the best music. I've been listening for a little bit. Copperhead Road is one of the best, and I can't believe what an honor to be played in by that.
It is a banger. You'll have to coordinate with him during breaks. We're a little busy in the waking hours, so if you've got a meeting that you need to walk into with bump music, it'll have to happen. You know, between 7:17 and 7:20, or between 7:31, something like that. Right. Man, good morning to you. Lots going on. We'll get to Iran in a second. I am curious your reaction to the results of the Texas Senate Republican primary that was decided on Tuesday. It is exceedingly rare where an incumbent senator is defeated in a primary. That happened here with John Cornyn, defeated by the former Attorney General Ken Paxton in the state of Texas. Senate Republicans did not appear to be happy with the decision that Donald Trump made to support Ken Paxton instead of John Cornyn.
Yeah, I mean, the results are exactly what we kind of knew were going to happen after Donald Trump had made that endorsement. But there's two sides of the coin here. Everything. So I'm a true conservative, right? So I want to see somebody who steps into that office and espouses true conservatism, which is what Ken Paxton will do. Now, on the flip side, if I'm thinking like a political strategist, I'm looking to map writ large And I know that there should be more competitive races out there. And so we're going to end up spending money in Texas more than likely against call him what you will. He is a strong candidate, James Tallarico is. And even though his policy is all wrong, and I think that it's going to get worse once more Texans find out about the kind of things that he believes, but he's still a strong candidate up there against Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton is not clean as the wind-driven snow. He's got some baggage that he's going to have to deal with. So what will end up happening is national Republicans will kind of be spending more money in a race that they probably shouldn't be spending as much money in. And that's going to draw away from other competitive races around the country. That's always the downside. Now, again, I'm a conservative and I want to see real conservatives, so I'm glad Ken Paxton is up now. I know that when he wins, he will do a great job in the Senate and push things like the SAVE Act across the finish line. And I understand why it would upset some of those in the Senate, some of the establishment that's been there for quite some time, because John Cornyn is one of them. You're taking away from my country club. So I can understand you're kicking somebody out of the country club who's been there for a very long time, almost a founding member.
Yeah, and so, your point about a founding member. I mean, this was a 4-term senator, and we're not talking about 4 terms like in the House where that means 8 years. We're talking about 24 years in the Senate, not some guy who came in and was an outcast from day one and people couldn't wait to see him leave. To me, the other piece of this is kind of the at least allegations of scandal that have followed Ken Paxton. I think he has been either acquitted or absolved of all of those. But when you hear those things over and over and over, especially coming from a overall conservative state like Texas, it does cause you to at least raise your eyebrows a bit and be like, is this okay? Is this who we want in the Senate?
Put that up against Tallarico's comments like, for example, calling my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, a radical feminist. Put him up against several of the other comments that he's made. And I think that when push comes to shove, it's going to be about who gets excited and goes to the polls. And my read on the situation is that while the GOP establishment did not like this decision by Donald Trump and do not like Ken Paxton, the base was yearning for someone like Ken Paxton. And I think that that's what's going to drive this campaign now. And we'll see how it turns out, but I can look back through history at cases like this where a conservative candidate is elected. It upsets the established order and the establishment that controls. And that momentum, that groundswell, grows to the point that it passes all the way through an election day. And I could see that very well happening in Texas. And I look at our own state, like Mississippi, where we've seen conservative candidates or candidates who have run in moderate seats as moderates lose just for one term, but lose to Democrats, and then a real conservative steps up, looks at what happened in that past election and says, this is what the people really wanted. They really wanted somebody like this, and they run like that, and it gets the base energized, and they get out the vote.
I don't disagree with you at all from a policy standpoint. I guess I'm talking about from a character standpoint, and maybe that's just not important. Maybe it's, look, you want somebody that's going to vote as a true conservative every time, and you use the phrase that people use when they talk about coaches. Hey, I'm not asking this guy to be my Sunday school teacher or my pastor. I want him to go represent me in Congress and vote the way that I believe, and I think he's going to do that. It's just, I don't know. Politics is icky sometimes.
It is. My dad is an orthodontist, and I watched him when I was growing up and through my high school years, and he would say, do you want to be an orthodontist? And I said, yeah, this is kind of a gross, sticking your hands in people's mouths, like it's kind of a gross job. I think I'm going to go do politics instead. And that just...
Well played.
Now look at me.
Well played. William Russell, my guest, a partner with Ballard Partners in D.C. He's worked with the Trump campaign extensively. He was a state director here and a former advisor to Donald Trump's campaign in his first term. Speaking of kind of icky situations, I think Iran falls into that category. there are. I talked about this earlier this week. I'm not really worried about what Tom Tillis is saying. Not really worried about what Bill Cassidy or Thomas Massey are saying. But I do pause when we get a statement like we got from Roger Wicker at the end of last week. When we get a statement like we got from Ted Cruz about the Iran deal and finishing the job in Iran. What is your take right now on that entire situation? And there's a secondary kind of brewing story with regard to the role of Marco Rubio versus J.D. Vance as well.
Oh, yes, there is. So I think that on its face, obviously, when we're talking about the Iran conflict, the president has one objective. There are others in the world who have different objectives. And I think the president is laser focused on getting any sort of nuclear capability out of Iran. He's not interested in regime change. I know that they don't want a hot war with boots on the ground in Iran. And I don't really think the Iranians want that either. And so we're kind of in this impasse right now with Hormuz being the flashpoint. We're seeing a little bit of motion now. We're seeing some informal passages through the Strait of Hormuz as these negotiations continue on, these peace deal negotiations. And I think that they will reach in some point a working. It's not going to be some overarching salvo to world peace that they achieve in a peace deal, but it will be a workable solution that creates some operation out of the Strait of Hormuz, which is, if they didn't have the Strait of Hormuz, this would be a non-factor, what's going on over there. But the fact that we do have some safe passage right now, we're going to get there. We're going to get to a point where Strait of Hormuz is open again. And the fact that we've decimated the nuclear programs over in Iran, that's a great thing. I think both parties at this point are looking for off-ramps, and I think that's the reason why the president continues to message how he is working on a peace deal. And that's something that Americans need to keep in mind, even as the problems that are happening over in the Middle East have a direct impact on us, whether it be supply chain, whether it be the price of oil. Americans need to keep in mind that there is progress being made, and this was one of those necessary evils that, while it feels very unpopular in the moment, when we look back and through history, this is one of those things that will be a legacy thing when he kind of changed the landscape of the Middle East by doing what he did.
William Russell is my guest. We'll continue the conversation on the other side of this break. And I want to come back to the word that you used. You used decimated when describing the nuclear program, but eradicated feels like the word we need to get to for this to truly be a success. We'll talk about that on the other side. Right. Mornings of Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. MRC is presented by Community Bank. We're back after this.
You don't like the way I'm living? Why don't you leave us alone and concentrate?
From the Seabrook.com.
Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Good morning, everybody. Time to wake up. Time to shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Well, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw them on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night.
Mornings with Richard Cross. The ceasefire text line is open to you. The one plan from ceasefire is here. Fiber home internet and wireless, only $99 a month for new and current ceasefire customers. One plan, one price, one experience, zero compromise. Get started now at ceasefire.com/one-plan. Ceasefire, customer inspired. William Russell is my guest. He is a partner with Ballard Partners. He's no longer in his home office. He's in the fancy podcast studio in their offices, which means no cowbell sitting on the shelf over his right shoulder. You excited about baseball regional this weekend?
I still have so many cowbells in my office, Richard. It would embarrass you how many cowbells I have in my office. I am very excited for Mississippi. I think we talked about this once. You pulled it out and you tried to ring it, and there was no dinger. So I don't know if it constitutes as a cowbell. And
there actually is a dinger or a clanger inside of it. It's just wrapped in tissue paper, as it was given to me.
All right. Well, yes, I am coming to you from the 13th and Park podcast studios here in the Ballard offices in D.C. We've got about 3 million subscribers, a little bit over 3 million subscribers now. And we've done a really good job building it out just to continue having conversations like this, keeping the people informed about what's going on in Washington, D.C.
All right, so I want to go back to your word. We were talking before the break. You used the word decimated with regard to the nuclear program. One of the words that the president has been fond of has been obliterated. I think the necessary word is eradicated. I have talked about the fact that ultimately this Iran war situation, conflict, however you want to describe it, is a success if you completely eradicate the nuclear program and all of the material going forward. The world becomes a safer place. The Gulf states, the Gulf region becomes a safer place if that is indeed the case. Outside of that, I have trouble really defining success. Do you think that that is part of what ultimately gets done?
Well, yeah, I do. I think that this administration has kind of outlined, maybe not publicly, but an overarching narrative of what they want to achieve. If I were to take a wild stab at points 1, 2, and 3 of what we need to be doing in country in order to actually eradicate their capabilities, you want to account for, the first thing is you want to account for the remaining uranium, the enriched uranium that exists. And by some accounts, so they had about 400 kilos of it, probably down to 200 now. They need to go in, need to get it and remove it, right? That's what the United States needs to do, or destroy it one way or another, right? 2, we need to restore IAEA, which is the very intrusive accountability group that comes in and checks everything out. Iran used to allow IAEA come in to do all of their accounting that they claimed, say what you will, they claimed one thing, Iran claims one thing, IAEA claimed another. But still, that's the accountability mechanism that we as a global society look to maintain established order in these countries that have enriched uranium, right? And number 3, I would think whatever's left, we need to dismantle or destroy. So when I'm talking about what's left, infrastructure too. So we're talking about centrifuges, we're talking about tunnels, we're talking about workshops, anything that they can use to continue to enrich uranium, because what I would assume is the know-how is still in country, right? The human element of this. You can have everything in the world sitting in front of you and how to build a nuclear bomb, but you and I, Richard, cannot sit down at that workshop table and build a nuclear bomb because we don't know. So there is still some intellect that we need to go out and find and remove that as well. That would be, for me, if I'm looking at this with the goal of destroying, completely eradicating, eliminating, whatever word you want to use to define this. If that's what I'm wanting to do, these are 3 clear objectives that we have to hit. And
I would argue,
feel comfortable.
Yeah, I would argue the secondary piece of that is the Strait of Hormuz and free passage there. But I feel like China's going to take care of that, and Russia may actually even play a role in that. And I know those are not our friends per se, but they need the strait to be open, perhaps even more than the United States needs to have that open.
That's
and
correct.
I kind of feel like they'll take care of that piece of it.
Well, and we talked about this last time I was on, is if you look at all of what's going on, all of the international policy that Donald Trump has put forward through the lens of curtailing Chinese involvement and success globally, this fits right into that, because we as Americans may be hurt by Strait of Hormuz being closed. You know who's really suffering? China. They're absolute. What's one of the reasons why the president was so warmly welcomed in Beijing? It's because they need to work with Donald Trump. Donald Trump holds all the cards when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz. It's not China creating a blockade. It's the United States Navy. There has to be some sort of open dialogue because China's getting absolutely raked over the coals right now, which, as a China hawk myself and someone who does not want to see them succeed, like this is really, really good. Like I've enjoyed seeing China squirm in this position. But the reality is we live in a global society now, and no matter how much I don't like that, how much we rely on China. So this will have a downstream effect on Americans as well. But it is good to see that maybe these partners can actually play a role in finding some resolution so that we ourselves, as the United States, we do our job of taking out the threat, the nuclear threat in Iran, and we kind of cripple for a time one of our the largest adversary that we have on the world stage. I think, again, time will show that this was actually the right move, even though it feels incredibly unpopular right now.
William Russell is my guest, former advisor and state director for Mississippi with the Trump campaign and currently a partner at Ballard Partners in Washington, D.C. Let's switch gears and talk redistricting just for a second. There was a lot of momentum just a few weeks ago in the immediate aftermath of Calais versus Louisiana. Some of that momentum has slowed a little bit because of either state legislatures or courts. South Carolina Senate did not go along ultimately with pausing elections and getting a new election cycle in place. A 3-judge panel in Alabama has said no on the redistricting immediately. What do you see as the landscape on the congressional redistricting front right now?
Well, I think that the worst case scenario for Republicans has not happened. I think that it's been a punch counterpunch, Republicans versus Democrat. My worst case scenario was seeing a 10-1 redistrict in Virginia stand, because that just adds 5 seats that are going to be really hard to get back somewhere else on a map without having, our own state redistrict, without all the other states that you mentioned redistricting, South Carolina, Alabama. I think the courts are going to do what the courts do. I think we've still got some time to see some shifting between now and when a lot of these states have primaries. I understand that I understand the process, and it's still going to take some time. At the end of the day, I don't really care how redistricting falls, because I think it's all going to be kind of a wash. That just seems to be the way that it's playing out. At the end of the day, this is all on the president's policies and the work that Congress has done over the past 2 years, and they need to be able to run on their record, because we can redistrict till the cows come home. But the reality is we still have to win seats. We still have to put people up that are good, competent candidates and win on the ideas and win on what we've done. And the record that Congress, the conservative record that Congress is running on over the last 2 years is pretty thin. And they're going to have to deal with the ramifications of their inaction. And I hate that. I hate to say that, because I am a conservative and I want to see conservatives win. But if this is what we've accomplished, then there are consequences to everything that you do or don't do. And this is one of those situations. Now, we're all going to continue to fight, right? There are conservatives that are still, there are Republicans who are still super excited to get out and vote. I just might see less of them. And that's part of, Congress has, this is the one thing that has been an enigma for me. I've not understood this, why Congress has been so hesitant to pick up the ball and do anything for the presidency. Now, the president makes it pretty hard, so from time to time, especially on certain topics. He does. But you've got to do something as Congress. And the president is passing are writing executive orders and signing them into action on a regular basis. Part of one of the things that Congress could do is pick that up and codify them into law. But we don't even see that. And even if it doesn't make it all the way to the president's desk, at least a place like the House, where we have a majority of a conservative.
Thanks for your time, William.
Good morning from the...
Start your day right.
Good morning, America. How are you?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
It is warming up outside. Perhaps you are headed to the ballpark this weekend, maybe in Starkville, maybe in Hattiesburg, maybe you're going to Lincoln, Nebraska, and you want to look your best when you do so, and you want to be comfortable when you do so. You can do all of that with Genteel. GenteelApparel.com is the website. They've got the collegiate collection with all of your favorite team's gear. They're going to have other people going, hey, where'd you get that shirt? What is that? Well, you say it's a Genteel shirt. You can get their ballpark prints for Ole Miss, for Mississippi State, for Southern Miss, the Solids, and a whole lot more. Outstanding stuff. I've told you for a long time, they make the best shorts that I have ever worn, and it's not even close. Check them out online, GenteelApparel.com. You get complimentary shipping on orders over $200. They've got a great kind of new spring, summer season of items that are available to you right now. GenteelApparel.com. That is GenteelApparel.com.
Hey, man, if I wanted to look like you, I mean, do I just call them and say, look, I want the Richard Cross collection, or is there like a specific, line that you work with?
The Richard Cross collection would work.
Okay, good. Just making sure. I thought that's what it was.
Yeah. Golf shirts, shorts, pants, some of their button-downs. The Wander hoodie.
The Wonder hoodie?
No, Wander.
Oh, Wander.
Wander. Okay. It is the best thing going, and they've got a new color. They've now got it in a light blue as well. It is the best piece of clothing in my entire closet. So,
saying a lot there. I've seen those jackets you got.
Yeah. They've actually jumped into the sport coat line as well. They've got some great looks there. I do not yet have a Genteel sport coat, but that could very well be on the horizon. GenteelApparel.com, GenteelApparel.com. Richard Cross, Lance Tolbert with you. Thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate William Russell coming in. We're talking about that Texas senatorial primary. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton won the Republican nomination for Senate yesterday, easily defeating four-term incumbent John Cornyn in the latest contest where the president sought to oust an incumbent that he did not see as sufficiently loyal. It was just a week or so ago that Trump endorsed Paxton, calling him a true MAGA warrior. The victory is the first time that a Republican senator from Texas has lost his party's nomination for re-election. John Cornyn spoke briefly after it was all said and done. He said, tonight we've come up short. I've always supported the Republican ticket, and I intend to do so again. Cornyn has said that he is not as off base with Trump as some people have tried to paint him. Said in 2023, as Trump was running to return to the White House, that, quote, his time has passed him by, close quote. That statement came back to bite him. As it turned out, the president's time had not passed by. Also, he was an early critic of the border wall between the United States and Mexico. That is a project that he has since supported. It was an expensive primary. John Cornyn's campaign and allied groups spent over $100 million on advertising between March 3rd and yesterday's runoff. He had the backing of Senate GOP leaders who said that he would be the stronger general election candidate against State Representative James Tallarico. And yes, yesterday Thomas and I made a friendly wager about I think we both assumed that that Paxton was going to win over Cornyn and would face Tallarico in the general. And that friendly wager was $100 to Children's of Mississippi. I don't guess we decided whose name it had to be in.
I guess the winner.
I guess I would make a $100 donation in the name of Thomas from Greenwood.
There you go.
Should James Tallarico win?
Well, Cornyn, he only won 2 counties out of the whole state. So, Paxton put it on him.
It's not a small state either.
No, just basically southeast Texas, Galveston area maybe, a little south Padre Island, and then Austin. That was it.
Not shocking in Austin, probably.
Yeah. And it was pink there. He didn't just take the cake. He won it, but there was a little contesting there.
Yeah. 8 o'clock hour is, Al Green lost.
Yeah, Houston politics is changing.
And the names and faces are changing.
I was kidding, yeah.
8 o'clock hour is on the way. We will be joined by Peter Costa, former CNBC market analyst and governor with the New York Stock Exchange. He has moved into the next phase of life, has left New York City behind, as so many others have as well. And I think he's calling South Carolina home now. Take a time out. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank.
Good morning to you there.
Okay, up and at 'em. Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
And the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, if you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em.
Welcome again. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. Peter Costa is my guest, former market analyst with CNBC and former governor with the New York Stock Exchange. Peter, always a pleasure to visit with you. Customers at Community Bank and other small banks probably have a similar question for their local banker. Hey, is this a good time to refinance? When's my mortgage interest rate going to go down? The Fed is an interesting conversation right now. The new chair of the Fed is in place. The old chair, Jerome Powell, apparently not going anywhere, and some of his allies seem to be blocking maybe the priorities of Warsh, the new chair, going forward. What do we see here?
Well, early on, it looks like he's going to be in for a challenge trying to get, interest rates down. I think, if you really look at the data, though, it doesn't warrant any kind of interest rate decrease. So I think right now for the next 2 or 3 months, you're not going to see any movement from the Fed. I think when you want to look towards the end of the summer, I know it's people who want to refinance don't want to hear that, but I think that you're probably going to have to wait until the end of the summer before we see some sort of movement on that. I think part of it is, due to the war in Iran. I think that's, even though they'd like to say that's not really on their radar, it is on their radar because it's, with energy prices skyrocketing across the country. Inflation is starting to really peak its head. And I do think next month or the May inflation report is going to be pretty significant. So it's very hard to, lower interest rates when you see that. And, he does have, a lot of pressure from the president because the president wants rates to go down. But I think that the overall opinion of on the FOMC is that rates shouldn't go anywhere. And I even wrote in my column, I think 2 weeks ago, that I think there's a possibility that there might be a rate hike. I mean, it's possible. I've seen a few analysts say that there is a possibility of a 25 basis point rate hike at the next meeting. I don't think you're going to see that, but I think there is a possibility at some point if the data doesn't start to at least level off. There is a possibility that they may go that route, which would be, that would turn the market around quite fast. So, we'll wait and see. I'm not sure if you're going to see it. I'd probably give it a 30% chance, but 30% is more than I would say 6 months ago.
Is all of this tied to the ongoing conflict in Iran and energy prices related to the Strait of Hormuz, or is there more to it than just that?
Well, I think that's, a good part of it, but you have an economy that's actually, even though, people might argue, the economy is doing okay considering everything that's going on, considering that inflation is starting to peak its head again. Employment is still fairly strong. It's not the strongest you want, you'd love it to be a little stronger, but it's not, you're not seeing a large uptick in unemployment numbers. So with the economy doing fairly well and some sectors doing really well, I mean, you just go into AI and, there's still the money that's flowing into these different infrastructure projects is mind-boggling. So, there's money being moved around. It's, there's no stagnant. The economy's not stagnant. The economy is going to keep growing. It's not going to grow at 4 or 5% like it did after the pandemic, but sure enough, we'll probably be at around 2.5–3% for the near term.
Peter, we've talked in the past about the difference between institutional investors and just regular everyday folks like you and me and Lance and our listeners that maybe are doing a little bit of investing from a retirement standpoint. Maybe they're picking stocks here and there. Without institutional investors, we don't get to the kind of pricing that they're talking about for a SpaceX IPO. We don't see the crazy growth that NVIDIA has continued to have, kind of defying the odds that it can continue to grow at the rate at which it's growing. What does that mean in terms of the market and what these big money investors believe about the future of AI technology and technology stocks in general?
Well, Richard, I think that's a little bit of a misnomer that the individual investor is missing out. People have, granted, pension plans are not as big as they used to be, but still state pension plans, university pension plans are a significant amount of investment money, and they are in these stocks. So you may not see people saying, I bought NVIDIA, $92, 10 years ago, it split 5 times. You may not see that, but they might hold several mutual funds, an ETF, or any number of things in their retirement accounts, in their 401ks. They're still benefiting from it. I mean, this institutional investing, that money comes from somewhere. It comes from universities, it comes from corporations, so you're not directly seeing that. But if you look at whatever you have as an investment, may it be a mutual fund or an ETF, or, you're seeing that growth. You're seeing that. You're not seeing maybe 100% return in a year, or like Micron, for instance. I mean, I've never seen a stock trade like that in my whole life. And I mean, I've been in the business. I've seen a million different things. I've never seen anything like Micron. But institutions hold it, and those institutions are not just, the Bank of New York. The Bank of New York has investors, and those investors are individuals or individual groups. So eventually the money is coming back to the individual investor, but not directly as if you just went onto your Charlie Schwab account and bought the stock.
Yeah.
So, you're still benefiting from it, maybe not in that direct, 80% return, but some people invested in some of these mutual funds and some of these ETFs that are up significantly, and they're doing well. And then some people aren't. So, I mean, the investors are still there. It's just not a direct investment anymore.
Let's talk a little bit more about investing. We know that a significant number of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and they're worried about paying to fill up their car at the gas tank and to buy groceries and to make sure that their kids have got what they need, and maybe they're trying to take a vacation, and the idea of investing feels like, well, that's what rich people do. What about at the beginner level for somebody that's just out of college, or for the family of four that's just trying to kind of keep it between the ditches? What do you advise in terms of investing for that type person?
Well, I mean, it's hard because, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, even, every investment advisor, from the guy on the street to, major players, are going to say the same thing. You invest over a period of time, maybe $10 or $20 a month. But a lot of times, where are they going to get that? They might be running a deficit. They might be using their credit cards to pay, so they don't have that extra cash. So it's going to be very hard for them to get on that. But when there is extra cash, and, it's, you have to weigh, when you're in that situation, you have to weigh, do I pay down my credit card, or do I put $100 away in my Charlie Schwab account? It's very, very hard. And, I think that it is a problem in this country. And I think one of the things, and I really do like the Trump plan about, giving every child under 18, getting $1,000 to start an investment account. And that, I think, is an incredible idea. And I think that's one of the things that is going to help, these young people, the kids that are still in high school or maybe even in elementary school. Those kids at some point will end up having money to pay for an education and pay for, college or, a trade school. And I think that, to me, is the way to go. I think the government, I don't really want to see the government helping out in a lot of ways, because I'm more of a libertarian to some extent. I'm a Republican, so I don't want to see the government involved in anything. But I think that this is actually a really good plan. I really like it. I think that there probably going to be something at some point from the administration where it'll be a family plan, and that might be very helpful to people that really can't afford to put away that $50 a month. But if you have some sort of plan where the government or the federal government gives you $1,000 to start an IRA, maybe that'll get people in motion to do that. So, I mean, sometimes you just need a kick in the butt, and I think that I think it's a help. I do. It's going to cost a lot of money, but at the end, it's going to be very helpful for
everything we do costs a lot of money at the federal government level. It feels like there are far dumber things that we as a country spend money on than maybe jump-starting some savings for the American population. We'll continue with Peter Costa. When we come back, there is this real number that is the national debt, but it also feels like a mythical number that's out there. What's the reality of that when we come back?
From the Venable Glass.
Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire.
Oh, he wants to sing. Let the man sing.
Oh my God, Johnny Cash, man! I know it's Cowboy Tuesday or whatever it is in Mississippi. What is it, Cowboy Wednesday?
Country Music Wednesday. Yeah, we do.
Oh my God, you hit on that song. I love that song.
Mornings with Richard Cross. Peter Costa is my guest, former market analyst with CNBC and a former governor with the New York Stock Exchange. In 1946, our national debt was at 106% of GDP. Since 1946, that number has gone as low as about 25%. We are currently at just over 100% with a cool $39.1 trillion in debt as a country. Projections are that are by 2056, so 30 years from now, that number will be at 175%. of GDP. This is a very real number, Peter, but it feels also like we just kind of keep on going about our business, right? We worry about, like I said earlier, putting gas in our cars and feeding our families and paying our bills every month. Give us a sense of what this means.
Well, I mean, it's just the interest on that debt is probably, I think, the way I remember it is that the interest on the debt is more than the GDP than 95% of the countries on the planet. So that we're paying, probably $3 or $4 trillion in debt. I mean, the problem I see with that is that the U.S. is not buying all that debt. The Chinese are buying it. You name it. There are people out there that are buying that debt that puts us in debt to other countries. I think the Chinese own a little bit under $1 trillion worth of U.S. debt. It's about the interest it's just going to compound no matter what the interest rates are. Even if they drop the interest rates to zero again, we're still going to be paying a tremendous amount in interest. And I think that, the government, and this is the Republicans are to blame as well. I mean, the Democrats and the Republicans just continue to write checks, but they don't have the cash for the check. So they just borrow and borrow and borrow. And, as long as the U.S. has, credit rating that's at least investment grade, people are going to keep buying that debt. And I don't know. I mean, the end result, I'm not sure what the end is going to look like, but I do think that at some point there's going to be a reckoning, and I don't think it's going to be in our lifetimes. I think that we'll probably be able to kick that can down the road for another maybe 30 years to where we are, 170% of our U.S. GDP. And at some point, to me, it could be just a financial ruin. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news because it's not going to happen tomorrow. And most people are more worried about their own debt, how much they have on their credit cards, what they're paying, And the reality of the situation is this is the U.S. government at some point may not be able to fund what the defense budget, alone is $1 trillion. So it may not be able to fund it. And, the only way to reduce that debt is increased spending. I mean, increased taxes, which is that's a death knell for anybody who wants to do that. And, there's no answer. I mean, you can ask any analyst. They'll just say it's a disaster waiting to happen. I agree. I wish I knew the answer. I knew the answer. I would at least tell you, but I really don't know the answer of how it's going to play out. But it's not getting any better. And as long as the U.S. federal government keeps spending more than it brings in, you're just going to have this. This is going to continue for, the foreseeable future.
For perspective, during the course of your answer to that question, our national debt grew by $1.8 million.
Yeah, I have that same app on my phone.
Yeah, I mean, I just pulled it up. It just kind of shows it constantly moving, and it's staggering when you think about it in terms of that. I mean, we've kind of lost the plot of what $1 million is. I mean, most everybody that you and I know, if you handed them a check for $1 million, it would change their life dramatically. Not everybody, but for most. And yet, in a 2-minute answer to a question, we just trickled off $2 million more on the national debt. I mean, it's almost incomprehensible.
Well, I think that's one of the problems, Richard, is that it is incomprehensible. People don't have I don't either. I mean, how do you wrap your arms around $30-some-odd trillion in debt? I mean, if I have a $300 bill on my credit card, I'm like, I don't want that. I'll pay it off. How do you sleep at night with that kind of? But I think, and I think as well as I do that I'm not a big fan of the politicians in Washington. I don't even think they care. They have their own projects. They want to, spend money to make sure that they get reelected. And, it doesn't matter that the income is not matching the output. So, you're going to continue to have this until you have somebody who's actually fiscally conservative, truly fiscally conservative, and knows that it's not going to be popular, because anything as far as being fiscally conservative is going to mean there's going to be cutbacks and whatever. And a lot of that, is, it might be entitlements, but that's not all there is. I mean, it's just, the U.S. government has just gotten too big, and we're funding it, or we're trying to fund it, and we're never going to be able to catch up funding it. So it's like it's a Rubik's Cube of a problem.
Well, and not to beat a dead horse in there, but I mean, if you said, hey, this is actually something that we care about, that we want to tackle, if Congress said that, and we know that Congress is not going to say that, but if they did say, we believe this is a national security issue, and we're going to tackle this, you can't throw $10 billion a month at the national debt, and it's like a drop of rain in the ocean. It's a deal where you would have to allocate $5 trillion a year for the next, 10 years if you were going to pay it down, right?
Well, the thing is, if you could possibly even do that, $5 trillion a year, the balance sheet's still never going to catch up, because whatever you're spending on one end, even if you had the ability to get that money to pay down that debt, you're spending more money than you take in. So your debt's going to, you're probably, I think it's, the budget deficit.
It's two-pronged, right? Because we talk about the debt and we talk about a deficit.
Yeah.
And so
it's almost impossible. And one of the things that a lot of congressmen or people have said, pass a lot of the functions of the U.S. government to the state. I mean, there's nothing worse than having a state run. If you look in New York State, the state has run at a deficit for probably 35 years, ever since maybe Pataki, who was a Republican. It's run a deficit. So you can't push off what you're doing as a federal government. You can't push it off onto the states, because the states would just raise taxes, and it's never going to work. I mean, I don't know how to solve it.
Right.
If you keep
So let me ask you this. Sure. I mean, it's like you have to spend less and you got to pay down debt all at the same time, which means you've either got to cut or make more money. So if you look at a state like Mississippi, who is doing well economically, that constitutionally is required to have a balanced budget year over year, is that going to put a place like Mississippi? We've seen massive economic investment during the Tate Reeves administration. Is it going to position a place like Mississippi or some of the other southern Republican states that seem to be doing well in a better place going forward?
Yes, because it's the spending in the South, and I've lived down here for a little while, but I also went to school in Tennessee, so I know the South a little bit. They have no problem balancing budgets because the economies are doing well, their tax rates are low, and yet they still balance their budgets because they're not offering 800 different services for every constituent in the state. These are states that you make it on your own. You make it. You work, you pay your bills, and you make it. Other states, the blue states, tend to lean towards handouts and making sure that everybody is, doing, and can survive. Instead of having them work and survive, they rely on the public dole. I hate using that word because that's very old school, but it is true. They survive on the public dole. They survive because they don't want to work, and the government's going to make sure that they have all the welfare they need, and that doesn't happen in the South. So I think the South will do just fine.
My apologies for a heavy conversation that's not a whole lot of fun, but I always enjoy your time and your insight.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Peter. We'll talk soon. Peter Costa, former market analyst with CNBC and a former governor with the New York Stock Exchange. Take a time out. We're back with you after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank.
From the Seabrook.com.
SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Here we go. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross.
Now that's entertainment.
I've seen a lot of good folk die, had a lot of bills to pay. I'd give the shirt right off of my back if I had the guts to say, take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. My woman done left and took all the pieces I was working for. You better not try to stand in my way.
Good to be with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. We'll be coming to you from a different location tomorrow. Do you know that, Lance?
Uh-oh.
From the Lone Star State.
Nice. Over there in the big CS, huh? Setting up, getting ready to go.
I think they now call it Bryan College Station. I don't think it's just College Station.
There's a hyphen in there.
Yeah.
I noticed
Bryan
that
was
the other day.
Getting the short end of the stick, and they wanted to be added to that. Economic development decision, I'm sure. Or Convention and Visitors Bureau or something along those lines. I will not be jumping in my Ford F-150 from Belk Ford in Oxford and driving all the way to College Station. I will, however, be jumping in it and driving to Tupelo. I've never done this before, so one of those contour flights out of Tupelo, they did the Tupelo to Nashville flights. There used to be a couple of those a day. They've added one to Dallas. And so instead of flying out of Memphis, I'm going to try the flight out of Tupelo to Dallas and then catch a connection to College Station. And I will be driving my F-150 that I got at Belk Ford to Tupelo. Did that yesterday as well. Had to go there for a funeral. Beautiful service, honoring the life of Junior Roper, dear family friend, and it was great to be there. You can get behind the wheel of an F-150 or an Expedition or an Explorer or whatever Ford vehicle you are looking for at Belk Ford. Oxford Toyota, part of the Belk Ford family as well. They're located on Highway 6 West in Oxford. You can find them online at belkford.net. Not a bad place to start your search if you're looking for a new or previously owned vehicle. You can see the inventory they've got. But at Belk Ford, it's not just about the inventory. It's not just about the cars and the trucks that are on the lot. It's about the people that work there and how they make you feel and ultimately how they perform. Can they get you in the vehicle that you are looking for at a price that you can afford with, financing terms that make sense for you? Yeah, they can. They're going to help you on that journey, and then they're not going anywhere. The service department there is as good as it gets. So many times, service department with an automobile dealership, you just leave frustrated. You may get the work done, but you're just frustrated. It's really not that way at Belk Ford. Whether it's routine maintenance like changing your tires or rotating your tires or getting your oil changed, or it's something more serious. Maybe you drive a diesel and you know how expensive and complicated it can be to work on a diesel engine. Well, they've got diesel mechanics and a full diesel mechanic shop on site at Belk Ford. Whether you live in or around Oxford or you're in a different part of the state or a different state altogether, give them a call. Talk to them. My friends at Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota, Highway 6 West in Oxford, and tell them, if you don't mind, that you heard about them right here on Mornings with Richard Cross. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard. Thanks for joining us. So I thought it was going to be really easy to draw the new maps.
Oh, I thought you were talking about valeting at Tupelo. Yeah,
I think that'll be easy too.
Yeah,
I think it'll
easy.
be easy to park and get through security and get to the plane there. I'm allowing less time than normally I would.
You just run to the door and throw the keys up in there and say, "I'll be back."
Yeah. I don't know if we'll go quite that far. But no, what I was going to say is I thought it was going to be easy. I was told that and have been told that over and over and over online. Just redraw the maps. Heck, get Grok to do it. Get Claude to do it. Just punch it up in your favorite AI platform. Go to Gemini and have them draw the new electoral maps and just get them in place. Do it. Wait, did somebody around here say that this actually is going to be a complicated process, not impossible, but not easy and not fast? Only to be called a flaming lip. I love keep bringing that up.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, why do you say it's not going to be easy? Because the evidence tells us that it's not that easy. Florida seems to be getting it done. Louisiana, we think, is going to get it done, but it's not going to be without significant legal wrangling. Texas has somewhat gotten there, although there is legal challenge all over the place. A federal court barred Alabama from using a Republican-favoring congressional district map in coming elections, the latest salvo in the legal battle over redistricting. Alabama set to hold special congressional primaries in August. South Carolina's Republican-controlled Senate rejected a plan to cancel an ongoing congressional primary and hold a later election under new maps drawn to remove high-profile Democrats. President Trump and his aides have been putting pressure on some Republican leaders in South Carolina to pursue mid-decade redistricting plans. The state's Republican governor called the legislature back for a special session to redraw the state's congressional maps, but a majority of state senators voted to pause discussions on the bill until the next session of the legislature and not to stop an election that is already in progress. Early voting began in South Carolina on Tuesday. Was that yesterday? Yes, that was yesterday. In Alabama, the 3-district judge wrote, ultimately, we cannot see our way clear to requiring Alabamians to cast their votes in the 2026 elections under a districting plan tainted by intentional race-based discrimination. Now, if I understand this right in Alabama, and by the way, they had a 102-page opinion in which the Alabama District Court panel reiterated its findings that the Alabama legislature created map was intentionally discriminatory and therefore unconstitutional. These were maps that were enacted in 2023. So, that is different than we have in Mississippi. In Mississippi, you did not have a legislature that drew race-based maps that favored Republicans. You had Mississippi courts tell the legislature that they had to draw majority-minority race-based districts. It's actually quite the other way. Kind of the opposite of what Alabama did. I say all this to say, it feels like there is some wisdom in doing this slowly and methodically. Slow is not the right word. Methodical is the right word. There are a lot of I's that have to be dotted, and there are a lot of T's that have to be crossed in the redistricting conversation. And as we have discussed ad nauseum, the redistricting conversation in Mississippi is multi-pronged. It is not just congressional maps. It is state Supreme Court maps. It is legislative maps. And it is congressional maps. And so there is a lot to consider and a lot that you got to go through to get to the finish line on this. Governor Tate Reeves, when he was on with us, 3 weeks ago now, said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And he said, we will have new maps in place before 2027. And now my words, not his. I think if this is going to happen in Mississippi, Tate Reeves would like to have it happen on his watch. It would stand to reason that the governor would like that to be part of his legacy going forward, a legacy that is highlighted by economic development wins But if you're able to put another bullet point on there that shows redistricting that stands up in court and reshapes Mississippi's, well, that gets Benny Thompson out. I mean, let's just say it like it is. Then that would be a legacy item for Tate Reeves as well. And with select committees in both the House and the Senate that have been put in place to focus on redistricting prior to the 2027 legislative session, sounds like that's already in motion. And we know those first set of meetings are either happening or have already happened for the very first time. Ceasefire text line open to you at 601-879-4395. The one plan from Ceasefire is here. Fiber home internet and wireless, only $99 a month for new and current Ceasefire customers. One plan, one price, one experience, zero compromise. You can save over $700 a year with 3 phone lines from Ceasefire compared to AT&T. Plus, with 5-year price lock, you pay one rate with no surprises guaranteed. Don't wait. Get one plan today. Visit your local Ceasefire store for more. Ceasefire, customer inspired.
From the Venable
It's time to switch on.
Mornings with Richard Cross. On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I'm gonna find me a river, one that's cold as ice. And when I find me that river, Lord, I'm gonna pay the price. Oh, Lord, I'm going down in it 3 times, but Lord, I'm only coming up twice. She's long gone.
Ceasefire text line 601-879-4395. Mike in Oxford, regular listener, long-time listener in the afternoon, occasional listener in the morning because of job and teaching requirements, says he is on the road for Lincoln, Nebraska, headed to watch the Rebels in the Lincoln Regional. He's encouraging me to eat at the General Aviation Restaurant in College Station. Okay. If I have time, I will do that, Mike. I don't know that I'm going to stop and just hang out at the airport for that, but I appreciate the recommendation, no doubt.
Get you some aviator shades and walk in and act like you're a pilot.
Should I, pull up the Top Gun anthem on my phone and just have it play as I walk in?
Definitely, man. Yeah, have some fun with it.
Mose says, Richard, to your point, AI says a map drawn into 4 quadrants of equal population would probably maintain a 3-1 split in Mississippi. However, Republicans would be more competitive in the Northwest District. I'm thinking about what that would look like in my mind, Mose, because a Northwest District would include DeSoto County, which is heavily Republican. Hogman, I don't think this works, but it is an interesting concept to think about a little bit. He said, here's an idea. Let the entire state vote for congressmen. Do away with all districts. All 50 states have congressional districts. 7 of the 50 states only have 1 congressional district based on population. And so that would be Alaska, Delaware, North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont, and Wyoming are all single district, single congressional district states. But Moses is suggesting that we elect congressional representatives the same way that we elect senators. We just have statewide candidates, and everybody votes for them, and they go and represent. I think that is difficult when you talk about representative government. Mike Ezell is more in tune with the needs of the Mississippi Gulf Coast. That is his home, Michael Guest, in the 3rd District. Benny Thompson is just completely locked in with the needs of those that live in the 2nd Congressional District and works every single day to make sure that the people that live in his congressional district have everything that they need. And Trent Kelly in his home district, the 1st District as well. It's right next to his North Mississippi office yesterday on West Main in Tupelo. I hope you noted the sarcasm when I was talking about the 2nd Congressional District. Sometimes I feel the need to make sure that you smell what we're stepping in there. It is a fascinating concept. Just throw it out there and, hey, you got 4 congressmen from Mississippi. The entire state's going to vote on those 4 congressmen and let the chips fall where they may. But I don't think you get to the finish line on that idea. In fact, I'm not even sure that legally you can do that. I would have to do a little more digging.
Whether you can or can't, that would be a knockdown, drag-out.
Ooh, man, wow. Isn't that the case?
Goodness gracious.
It absolutely is. We were talking about $39 trillion for the national debt earlier. Somebody sent us a message that says 1 trillion seconds was 32,000 years ago.
That puts it into perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
The thing, we see that debt number, and it is big, but don't forget that other countries owe us about 20 trillion. So, it's really about 18 trillion to 20 trillion. Now, again, that's nothing to sneeze at, right? That number's growing every day, every second, every minute. But, yeah, we're owed about 20 trillion by the rest of the world, too. So that's...
How about I leave you with a number today, Lance? You want to... if we just collect our debts...
Well, that's another thing, right?
Yeah. Send the repo man. Let's knock that thing back a little bit and get it under control, and probably doesn't work. I'll leave you with a number. We know that Southern Miss is one of the 16 regional host sites in college baseball this weekend. Since 2020, our COVID year, Southern Miss has more wins as a baseball program than any of the other 15 hosts. 279 wins for Southern Miss in baseball since 2020. Texas is next closest at 273, followed by Florida at 264 and North Carolina at 257. What a program they have built in Hattiesburg. Have a great Wednesday. For Lance, I'm Richard. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.